So anyway, let me just tell you about how it all happened maybe, and then we were down on this trip around and the subantarctic and subnocean and down into McMurdo. And it was quite a good trip. We had sort of a dozen scientists on this thing and then 40 punters. And it was quite a cross-section of punters, like it wasn't all rich pricks, it was, you know, 2 teachers, 2 builders, 2, you know, whatever, like filling Noah's Ark really. But, and it was all about learning about the issues, one of which is the pests on the subantarctic islands. It's the big one, obviously, the big issue down there is climate change, but this is a significant issue. And Doc's done, as you're probably aware, quite a lot, and it's just sort of helping the Aussies with Macquarie and getting rid of the rabbits. So anyway, we had this wine on the boat. I don't know if I told this story when I saw you. And it was called Schist Face. Because schist is a rock. Yeah, so it's from Central Otago. So every night we get out the schist face. And of course we'd be off our face within a matter of, you know, whatever. And so one night I was saying to the dock guys, well, you know, we're in the Auckland Islands. I said, how much to get rid of the pests on the main Auckland Island, which I think it's cats and pigs. And they said, oh, 20 million. And we said, bloody hell, have you got anything cheaper, you know? Said, this is not cheap stuff, is it? So anyway, they said, oh, no, Auckland doesn't actually feature on our list of priorities because it's too much money for what the ecological benefit. I said, oh, sure, you've got a list, have you? You worked it all out. And they said, yeah. And so the top of their list was the Antipodes. Okay. It's only got to be $1 million to get rid of. Well, if you see, it's just a pretty hunk of rock, really. How the hell they thought they could farm? But
sold that off for farming back there 100 years ago,
Yeah, just unbelievable. Anyway, so we said, okay, well, you've got it. Sort of went to bed, proud of myself, woke up in the morning with a hell of a headache. Jesus, how are we going to get this together? So anyway, we've been doing it. We've got half of it now. Okay. So we were on the boat in Feb, and where are we now? September, August. So you've got half of it. So hopefully we'll get it all by Christmas. Navy's signed up, so it's ready to take the guys down on their helicopters or whatever they do. And so yeah, that's going to happen.
That's amazing.
So that's cool, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
really
I couldn't.
Way to go.
Yeah, I thought it was bloody awesome. But we've been doing crazy things, like going around all the schools with our outreach. We've talked to about 20,000 kids now in the schools, or not me, but all the team. It's a team of 50 people, man, once you get them working for you, motivated. So it's captured the imagination, so I've been thinking about that and thinking, we need to capitalise on this. We need to do another one. And I talked to you about this today, Jazz, about doing somewhere where there's humans. So looking at New Zealand in terms of, because it would be a real achievement to do an area that's got human habitation, because it's not just about eradication, you've got to maintain it then.
Yeah, sure.
Through your whatever quarantine or whatever you're doing, border control or whatever. So there's a few candidates in New Zealand as to how we do it. The one that really excites me in terms of, and so I'd be interested in your perspective, would be Stewart Island. 400 people. They're not hippies though.
Men of the land.
Yeah, they're deer stalkers and fishermen and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, each one of those is worth at least 2 hippies in terms of trying to get over the line, get my drift. But the bloody thing's 175,000 hectares. So, you know, it's huge in terms of the size of it. But the good thing about it is, you know, if you draw the thing, all the humans are there.
Yeah. Put a fence around
that's
it.
Exactly the way I thought about it. Let's do it in two stages. Let's put a bloody fence across there, 5 mil, and do the 95% of the island, you know, because doctors come in and they kill everything, you know, they're really good at it. That's what they tell me. But we can't kill the white-tipped deer, actually.
No.
White-tailed deer, because that's hunting lobby, you know. So we'd have to just keep their numbers down. But they're not they're not predators. You know what I mean?
They're strong herbivores, but at the end of the day, the conservation it's a human endeavour on that island, and if you're going to have the community support it, it's going to have to be for their own benefits.
Yeah, no, that's right. So So if you put the fence across and did it simultaneously, so okay guys, we're going to do this bit, this is easy, and then there's you. And because they've already done a paper on this sort of stuff, and they object to a rabbit-proof fence, but because they feel as though they're being caged. But I think you could get them over the line on that and say, well, as soon as you've got your shit together here, we can take the fence down.
Yeah, sure.
You know, but anyway.
And they've had Ulva Island planted right there in their own backyard for, Ulva Island's been there all the time, but using it as a conservation site.
That's
it's only
right.
just taken off, and that's completely brought the community together, supporting that conservation there. So previously they were a bit against that, but now they've seen
I think they've travelled a bit.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm going to go down there in October and see it. I'm going this week actually to Invercargill, and we'll have a talk there, but I'll go across to Stewart Island and see it. Don't they sort of tell you the naff off?
I think it helps to have a tangible economic reason to doing it.
Yeah,
This
that's
touchy-feely, we love the animals, nature stuff. It feels great, but actually what it comes down to is the bottom dollar. And if it's going to improve their economics in some way, and you can make a meaningful case about that, you're on a good wicket. If you can't, then it's down to a few naysayers and the game's over.
But that would be scaling from Ulva, which is, they've seen now the conservation tourism benefits of that, and just scaling, saying, let's just make your whole island.
Do you think they've had them, James? Have they had benefits from Ulva?
Yeah, they have. They see a lot of tourists come that are just making a beeline for Ulva. It was the
that'll
first
help.
place in the country where Sirocco the Kakapo went on tour.
Yeah, of course it was. Yeah.
So they've just, like you said, it moved the baseline for them, and they became supportive of conservation. And the important thing I think about Stewart Island and Great Barrier now is that the seed has already been planted for years to clear it of pests.
Yeah.
So you put the seed there, and then you leave it a few years, and you come back a few years later, and the community feels like it's an idea they've run with and they've developed.
Well, that's what you've got to try and do, right? And say, well, we don't want to rush you, but we need to get over this. We need to get going because the possums are bloody destroying the economic and the environmental capital here.
Yeah.
So we need to get going. So we'll do it in 2 bits, and we can pull the fence down whenever you are ready.
Yeah, and it's got
soft entry. See?
Yeah,
It's got major goal targets. We've run out of places to put Kakapo now. We need somewhere to put Kakapo where they can just be left on their own, and that was Stewart Island until the 1980s. When cats ripped the population to shreds. So Stewart Island would just be a bastion where we can replace all of these species that have been lost that have nowhere
There's
else to
plenty of
go.
precedents for working in a staged approach, doing one section of an island and then leaving another section, and just making sure that you've got that barrier absolutely tight and nothing's going to get through. The South Georgia rat eradication is a good example where they've got the glaciers blocking off different sections of the lowlands. So rats don't really cross those glaciers, and so they're doing South Georgia, which is a truly gigantic island. It's kind of like New Zealand, but it's got these natural barriers. I was involved in a rat eradication in the US where the island was broken up into 3 sub-islands that were separated at high tide, so they were joined at low tide. So they just put this ring of steel. So they did 2 of the islands in Awana, and left the other island for a whole year, and just and they had incursions, but they just had traps there and poison bait, and just like nothing was going to make it through.
So they got them as they came across.
Yeah,
that's a bit like one of those islands in Dusky. They do that because the bloody stoats swim.
Yeah.
Between the islands.
Yeah, they will cross it, and you can't underestimate that biosecurity on Stewart or Great Barrier if they were to be eradicated. We saw it on Ulva Island. Every year rats get there through swimming or through hitchhiking on boats, and then they just it missed out one year. It was a bad year last year, and they took over the island again, and they had to respond with a full-scale eradication, and it would be exactly that, but scaled
Was
to
that
Stewart
Ulva?
Island. That was Ulva. So Ulva got re-eradicated because they had at least a dozen rats just arrive on the island all at once and start breeding.
So what happened to the birds on Ulva?
They took a little bit of a dent from the rats, but
Okay.
Doc was onto it and they detected them. The Doc office at Stewart Island is absolutely amazing. There's among the best in the country.
Right.
They're just targeted.
Yeah, so I mean with this obviously that's right, it's not that easy that you just typically you eradicate and it's done.
Pretty much, and
This
we've seen
is-
examples from Ross's patch over in the Western Indian Ocean where they were all keen for the eradication and the eco-tourism benefits, and then after that happened they went, alright, it's done now, we don't need to, because we haven't seen a rat for 5 years,
Took
we
their eye
don't
off
need
it.
to spend money on it, but that's exactly why you haven't seen a rat for 5 years, because you've been spending
That's
money
right.
on it.
Yeah, so I'm seeing it as a banner, as a real headliner for, because what I'm looking at is, Paul Callaghan's Pest Free New Zealand thing, and a stepping stone type approach is what.
It's like a pepper pot. We're starting with places all over New Zealand, Mangatautari up north, Tawharanui, down
join
here,
the dots.
and you just let them join the dots, or just let them swell out like a halo effect until they all link up. But what's the first question, of course, for Stewart Island is always going to be those white-tailed deer, and what's going to be done with them?
Well, they're going to stay right under this because they're not pests. They're sort of what are they?
They're a cultural resource.
It's difficult to get on top of that.
Yeah.
And ideally, they should be taken out because they're a mega herbivore that doesn't belong there.
That's right.
But in terms of if it's a make or break issue, you'd rather have white-tailed deer there and nothing else than status quo.
It's an opportunity, to me, because if you've got, as you say with Alba, if you've got a gem, it's going to generate the visitation, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you could do. Ross has been involved with bird watching tours, running those out of South Africa, and you could just. Lonely Planet has a little 3-day itinerary for the ecotourist who could be flying to Auckland, jet over to Great Barrier, hop down to Invercargill, out to Stewart Island. You'll have seen two of the most pristine, pest-free large islands in the world, and lived in the community at the same time.
Yeah. You don't know of any other place where with human habitation where they've done this, do you? Because we all talk about Lord Howe, and then you talk to the Lord Howe guys.
Landcare Research here is talking with the Juan Fernandez Islands off the coast of Chile. They're looking at doing a multi-species eradication and plant control effort there, and that's inhabited with a couple of hundred people as well. But this is the next stage. Everyone's acknowledging that that's the next stage in eradication. We've got the biological knowledge of these species, we've got the technological tools, but it's the human element.
But that's why it's such an opportunity. Because if you're the first and you get the banner, you get the headlines, that'll make it.
It's putting the money where your mouth is. I mean, we all talk about if I ask anyone on the street, do you support conservation in New Zealand? The answer is yes. But the question is, would you put your money where your mouth is and make it your backyard that's pest free, or your island?
It's the same old thing. What do you think? You think it's a pipe dream, or?
Look, you've got to aim high. You may not get there, but if you're not aiming high,
it's the social side that's tough.
Yeah,
the technical side now is.
It's one island at a time. You see the graph of eradications of pests from New Zealand, and it's a straight line on the log scale. So it actually means, we started at 1 hectare, 10 years later we were doing 10 hectares, 10 years later we were doing 100 hectares, we got up to 1,000, Campbell Island was 10,000, so now the next step is just 100,000. You just knock them off one island at a time, one island size at a time.
Yeah, I just think, to me it just feels the mood's right, the public mood. I just think conservation's become pretty mainstream in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, I'd say, in New Zealand.
It doesn't matter where you fall on the political spectrum.
No, it's politically neutral, which is really, and I think things like, pure advantage, which is business leaders basically, banging the same drum. God, you would never have got that 10 years ago. Conservation was the enemy of development.
Yeah, sure.
They were never seen as, being, joined at the hip.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wonderful.
All right, guys. Nice to meet you, mate.
Yeah, nice to meet you.